I wake up every morning in these odd times that we're living in, and sometimes I wake up with this feeling like, we got this. We were made for these times. We're going to do this. We're going to come out of this amazing, changed, transformed. And then sometimes I wake up and don't want to get out of bed, and I think, how the hell are we going to keep doing this? But this morning, I was excited to wake up because something was going to be happening in Central Park that I've been waiting for. And although I wasn't in the park or in New York City, I live 2 hours north of New York, I followed it on live stream, and maybe some of you did too. It was the unveiling of a statue in Central Park, the first statue of the 29 that were there already to depict real women. Of the 29 statues in the park, this is the 30th, none were depictions of real women. And about 7 years ago, a bunch of women thought, this is enough. There has got to be a statue depicting real women among the men. And they set to work, and for 7 years, they worked on getting the Parks Commission and the City of New York and the State of New York and elected officials to lift the moratorium on making a new statue in the park. And they commissioned a woman, Meredith Bergman, to make the statue. And today it was unveiled and put on its pedestal in an amazing ceremony that just had me crying for a lot of it. And there were quite a few people sitting in a 6 feet distanced audience with masks on. I couldn't really tell if I knew any of them. And there was one woman sitting there, just a small woman sitting by herself. And at one point she got up to give a speech, and it was Hillary Clinton. And Hillary gave us a history lesson about what the ratification of the 19th Amendment, the right for women to vote, what it took for that to get passed. Much of the work happened during a pandemic, the 1918 pandemic, during World War I, and during enormous opposition to allowing women the right to vote. And she schooled everyone in how hard it is to change things and how much energy we must keep up, so much positivity and hope and clarity and conviction that what we're doing is right. And it filled me with a sense of, yeah, that's what we got to be doing now. So I have written a new book. Some of you may know me from my other books, Broken Open, Marrow, The Seeker's Guide. And my new book is called Cassandra Speaks, When Women Are the Storytellers. The Human Story Changes. And the book comes from years of doing women's conferences at Omega Institute, the conference and retreat center that I co-founded more than 40 years ago. And I took a lot of what I've learned from running those conferences and writing speeches and put it into a new book, a hopeful book about what happens when women tell the stories dearest to our hearts, and they can become the values of our culture. So I'm going to read you a story that has something to do with this unveiling of the statue that I was just talking about. And it's a 7-minute read, and so since it's evening for those of us here on the East Coast, you can just think of it like as your bedtime story and get comfy and settle in with me. And I'm going to read you this story. It's from the middle of the book, and it's called Know Her Name. And I'm going to start somewhat in the middle of the chapter, and it's about a walk I took in Central Park several years ago. Here's the cover of the book. I entered the park and came upon a large bronze statue that I've passed many times before. 7 larger-than-life soldiers cast in bronze, one carrying a dying, bloodied brother in his arms. This time I stopped to read the inscription on the base of the monument, 7th Regiment, in memoriam, 1917 through 1918, World War I, a war memorial. As I stood in front of the statue, I thought, how interesting, how strange that humanity singles out war as the one form of boldness to memorialize. I kept walking, and before long I got to the Grand Army Plaza, the gateway to the park. There, rising tall above the crowd of pedestrians, was a statue of the Civil War Union General William Sherman, perched high on a horse, being led by an angel. Sherman is known for liberating the South from the Confederate Army, and he's also credited with the mass destruction of Atlanta during his notorious March to the Sea. Later, as commanding general of the Indian Wars, Sherman's policies included the first establishment of reservations, the killing of those who resisted relocation, and the starvation of the remaining free-roaming Plains Indians by mass eradication of buffalo herds. Again, I stopped to behold this statue. It's hard not to pay attention to it. General Sherman and his horse and the angel are covered completely in 24-karat gold leaf. I sat on a bench and wondered, why of all the people in the world does General Sherman get to sit on a gilded horse forever in Central Park? And why is it the same all over the world? It doesn't matter where you are, in Paris, passing the Arc de Triomphe, or in Volgograd, Russia, beholding the massive war statue, The Motherland Calls, or in Cambodia, in the temple ruins, where mile-long walls depict religious battles, or on the Mall in our nation's capital. Wherever you go on this planet, it seems to have been decided long ago that history would be annotated by the warriors, and that courage, boldness, and strength would be associated with a willingness to fight and die for your ethnicity or religion or country. I used to wonder about this as a kid. Why in school did we have to memorize the dates of battles and wars, or the names of the men who invented the atom bomb, but not the names of people who invented things like the washing machine, or solar panels, or the birth control pill? Certainly these discoveries, which, by the way, all involved women inventors, also changed the course of history. Why choose violent conflict as the one human activity to laud over all others? When I became a midwife and I witnessed the courage of laboring women, I wondered, what if next to a statue of a warrior holding his bloody comrade, sculptors had also been commissioned to represent a woman delivering a baby, strong and noble and, yes, bloody? Does that sound preposterous? Gory? Gross? Why? Blood is blood, whether it's spilled on the battlefield as a young person dies, or in the delivery room as new life is born. Now, I'm a realist. I know that human behavior can become so twisted that if allowed to reach a boiling point, some kind of force is required to stop it. But that doesn't mean we should celebrate violent force as the defining sign of heroism. What happens to human consciousness when we memorialize the dates of battles, and we pass the war memorials, and we sing anthems with lyrics laced with bombs bursting in air? José Ortega y Gasset, the 19th century Spanish philosopher, said, "Tell me to what you pay attention, and I will tell you who you are." We have paid a lot of attention to violence and warriors. Search online for the top 10 events in American history. I did this. On the first site, all 10 events were wars or attacks or assassinations. Same with the second list. The third list had the Apollo flight to the moon, plus 9 violent incidents. Really? These are the events we want to know ourselves by? Tell me to what you pay attention, and I will tell you who you are. Tell me what would happen to us as a culture if a statue of Rosa Parks were placed right next to the Lincoln Memorial, and Miss Parks was as big and bold as the Commander-in-Chief. Or if next to the Vietnam War Memorial there was a similar wall with thousands of names of the people who had honed other ways of dealing with conflict, like communicating, forgiving, mediating, working for justice so that the economic and social conditions that spawn unrest are transformed before they explode. How about monuments to the teachers who guide our children, or mental health experts who help people heal internal wounds before they inflict external wounds on others? Or the nannies and home health aides and hospice workers, the farmers and earth stewards, the everyday citizens who feed and house and give jobs and hopes to others. There are 29 sculptures in Central Park, and not one honors historical women. But I was happy to learn that an organization called the Monumental Women's Statue Fund launched a campaign in 2014 to construct Central Park's first monument honoring real women. Because of their persistence, a statue honoring Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Sojourner Truth will be the first monument in Central Park's 166-year history to depict real-life women, and will celebrate the largest nonviolent revolution in our nation's history, the movement for a woman's right to vote. Won't it be great for little girls and boys to walk through the park and see those images and ask their parents, who are those ladies? What did they do? How did they do it? Tell me to what you pay attention, and I will tell you who you are. So it was just so wonderful this morning to watch that statue being unveiled in the park. It is placed in a part of the park called Literary Row. It's where all these male authors' statues are, ones that have had something to do with New York City and ones that don't. And these women, all of whom used the word, either as a speaker, Sojourner Truth was a fiery speaker, and Cady Stanton was a writer, and Elizabeth was a lawmaker. And you can learn all about them and the statue and what went into the making of it by the sculptor and the getting it placed in the park at monumentalwomen.org. And you can watch the ceremony that happened this morning. It was just so hopeful. I'm still revved up by it and committed to using nonviolence and love and compassion as fierce change agents in the world. So that is a story. And if you liked it, let me know. Go to my Facebook authors page and let me know if you liked it. And maybe I will read a whole bunch of chapters from the book as we go along. The book comes out on September 15th. You can pre-order it now online at booksellers. And you can go to my website, elizabethlesser.org, to find out about all sorts of events I'm doing at bookstores and Instagram Live and Facebook Live and podcasts. It feels good to be able to do something hopeful in these times that are so difficult. So let's see. I'm looking at some of the comments, and if you have any questions, you can just write them in right now, and I can answer any. More chapters, people are saying. Yep. Good. Maybe I will do this on somewhat of a regular basis. I'll let you know. This was my virgin run on Facebook Live. I think I did an okay job. I don't quite 100% understand it all, but if you have any comments you want to say on what I read and the length and how I'm doing, just let me know. And I look forward to doing some more. I'll read some more. We can have story time on other evenings. Okay, everybody. Thank you. Be well. Be safe.